I put out like the WhatsApp group that I've got for my clients. I said, right, I'm going to have a chat with Gillian. If you get any questions,
Hmm.
most of them said, how does alcohol affect sleep?
Yep, brilliant
And
question.
yeah, so how does alcohol affect your sleep?
Like, there's loads of ways. So we touched on the dopamine hit that you get from that first drink of alcohol. After that dopamine hit, alcohol is naturally a depressant. So you have a drink or two or whatever you have at night time, and then you go to your bed. Because the body's always wanting to reach homeostasis, it will flood your system with cortisol and adrenaline and stuff and
Mm.
try and bring you back up.
Yeah, so to get you back to
Yeah.
even, basically. Yeah.
So you're in your bed, alcohol's wearing off, the cortisol and the adrenaline, and you wake up
Hmm.
and you're not getting back to sleep after that. And then that's when the crazy thoughts and stuff,
Hmm.
like, 'cause nothing good ever happens at 2, 3 in the morning, right?
Hmm.
So that's when you start going, oh, I can't get to sleep. And oh, remember she said this to me like 4 weeks ago, or you just start going over your to-do list or your anxiety or whatever. So that's why you're waking up in the middle of the night. There's the other one when we have that kind of slumped out, comatose, like that, no, that kind of like passed out drunk sleep that people say. And you might have slept all night,
Hmm.
but when, because it can, it, by that, with that level of alcohol and that type of sleep, you're kind of held in that deep sleep.
Hmm.
You're not getting through all the cycles of sleep
Hmm.
that make a restorative, recovered sleep. So that's
Yeah.
why people say, I'm not hungover, I'm just tired.
Yeah. Because you haven't
Tiredness,
slept well. Yeah.
tiredness
You've
is
just
a symptom of
you've
our.
been unconscious all night,
Mhm.
but not actually got a good sleep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's it.
Yeah.
So either it breaks your sleep where you're physically waking up, or it holds you in a sleep that doesn't allow you to
Yeah.
have like all the cycles.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you listened to the Huberman Lab
Hmm.
podcast. So he done like a 6 episode um, series on sleep, which was fascinating. And that guy, so Matt Walker, I think is the professor he was with.
Yeah.
So he was saying, like, if you were to drink alcohol, you should do it first thing in the morning
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
then it can like not affect your
Yeah.
sleep.
Yeah.
But yeah, that they're the main ones as well. Or when you have been drinking because of the kind of sedative way, you're not as aware of all the wee micro times you waking up and fall back over
Yeah.
and waking up
Yeah.
and fall back over. You might think you've went
Hmm.
all the way through. So that's the two big eight ways that it
Yeah.
affects the sleep.
Yeah. And if you're every Friday and every Saturday going out, as many young people do
Okay.
nowadays, that's 2 nights out of seven. So that's what, uh, like nearly a third of the time you're
Hmm.
not getting a good restful
Yep.
sleep. The effect that's going to have on your moods, your
Yep.
psychology,
That's it.
the way you're just the chemistry in your brain is going to be, you're not going to be forming as well as you could.
Yeah.
So like, and when you're young, you can get away with it.
Oh, exactly. So that's the kind of younger, like wild weekend.
Yeah, yeah.
The other way is it's became so socially acceptable to have a glass of wine with dinner.
Hmm.
And so that glass of wine
Mm.
every night, every other night, and
Yeah,
whatever, that's the one that's kind of wakening you up through the
yeah.
night. And for me, that's the one that got me really angry, if I'm
Hmm.
perfectly honest with you, because I was thinking, I'm having a drink to relax and to
Hmm.
switch off, right?
Hmm.
And what was actually happening, there's also a study as well that if you're having like 14 units of alcohol a week, now that's not a lot.
Hmm.
Like a large glass of wine is like three and a bit.
Hmm.
I only ever drank large glasses of wine,
Yeah,
okay?
yeah.
Um, if you're having that, whether it's over the course of the week or whether you're having all 14 in one go, whatever,
Hmm.
your baseline cortisol levels
Hmm.
are naturally higher.
Right. Okay.
So it's like,
So whether you're binging it
does they matter?
or
Uh-huh.
yeah, or having it spread out, does that was actually one of the questions one of my clients had, is like, um is it okay to have a binge every now and again?
Mm.
And I think he put like every month or 2 months or something. And yeah, um, yeah, so like it doesn't matter. It's kind of your body's, I don't know, like how do you would put it in like the context of like fitness. Like there's no point in doing like one huge workout every 2 weeks. You know what
Exactly.
I mean? Like that's gonna get you to some it's gonna get you somewhere, but it's
Uh-huh.
the small constant
Yeah.
effect. And as much as that's the fitness, that's the positive effect, you get the same negative effect
Hmm.
from
Yeah.
well, no, that's not right, because that's the opposite of what fitness would be actually. Uh, because whether you're having it daily or one all your units on one day a week, it's still having the
To your
same effect.
cortisol
Yeah,
levels,
to cortisol
yes.
levels. Yeah.
So between that and then realizing that it was my body was then creating more cortisol through the night, it's like, but we're sold it as this relaxation. We're told, especially the mummy wine culture, which is why we set up our circle, is like, you're stressed, you're here, have a glass of wine, your kids have drove you to it, you deserve it at the end of the day. But the reality is it's creating more
Yeah.
stress, the
Yeah.
very thing you're trying to
Hmm.
escape from.
Okay. Okay. Um. So the next question would be like how a lot of my clients asked. I think it's probably tied to that first one with sleep. Is like how does alcohol affect your? And you kind of mentioned it earlier when you're talking about ethanol being the that being the thing your body needs to deal with
Yep.
first before it
Uh-huh.
does anything
Yeah.
else. How does how does digesting alcohol affect what else is going on in
Right.
your body?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So as soon as you take in alcohol as a top level toxin,
Mhm.
um, it's also water and fat soluble.
Right,
So there's not a cell in the body it doesn't transfer
right,
into. That's
right.
why you can feel the effects of alcohol so quickly.
Hmm.
Um, so the main ways then is like everything else stops. So you talked about that kebab at the end of the night,
Hmm.
right? And how you sometimes you can wake up the next day and think that's just
Yeah,
sitting there.
yeah,
Well, it is because
yeah,
your body's actually spent all its time trying to break down the alcohol. The
yeah,
food's just,
yeah.
we'll get to that later. Um, so yet that becomes the priority for over everything else. In terms of fitness and diet and nutrition,
Yeah,
it's the liver that's going to do all the work,
yeah.
and it uses so much glycogen
Mm.
to do that. So the next day, that's why you're craving the carby
Mm, right,
foods.
okay, yeah.
Also, the dehydration, that's why you're then craving the salty foods.
Mm-hmm,
Now, I know that you're not recommending your clients eat carby, salty foods all the
mm-hmm,
time.
hmm.
So it just seems it's like a biological battle the next
Yeah,
day
yeah.
that you're going to, your body is seeking out this stuff
Mm.
because of what it had to do in
Yeah,
order to break down.
yeah.
And also the kind of, now I always get these two mixed up, the ghrelin and the leptin.
Mm-hmm,
Like when you're tired, just
mm-hmm.
explained why you're tired.
Sure. So ghrelin and leptin are your hunger and satiety hormones.
Yes. So
Yeah,
when you're tired, they flip round, so
right,
you're more hungry,
right.
and because of the alcohol, you're craving
Mm-hmm.
the other stuff.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
you are just going to be
So
like,
just all these wee things building up
huh,
to cause a big problem.
yeah.
Yeah.
And you've knocked your can in at the gym all
Yeah.
week.
Yeah.
You've done so good.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you have like you're just kind of white knuckling it basically if
Mm,
you manage to
mhm,
avoid the carby salty
mhm, mhm.
rubbish food
Yeah.
and stuff. So that's where it just becomes a bit more of a battle.
Yeah.
And so to go back to your other client's question, like what do you do? Do you have the big blowout? Do you
Yeah.
do
Yeah.
that depends on what your other goals are.
Yeah.
Like if your
Yeah.
goal is to be in the gym consistently,
Yeah.
or if you've got a big goal
Mhm,
1 month, I would lay off it
mm.
till that's at least out the road, and then maybe have your blowout if that's what. And
Yeah.
again, it's all your own social circumstances and
Yeah.
why you would be having that blowout. You've not seen your pals for ages, and it's
Yeah.
if that's worth it to you, then
Yeah.
absolutely
Uh,
go ahead.
yeah. And then the blowout you have might actually be a lot cheaper than you thought it was because alcohol tolerances. Yeah, and that can be a danger actually, because if you've not had alcohol for a few months
Yes.
and then you go and a blowout and usually I have 10 pints,
Uh-huh.
and after 3
It's
you're like, oh no god, I
feeling
really
leather.
usually I'm feeling fine at this
Uh-huh.
point, but then you still continue and still have those 10 pints, you might actually end up in a state where all the enzymes that are there to digest alcohol are down regulated because you've been off it for so long. Actually, your hangover is terrible.
Yeah.
So yeah, so and that's another like, as much as this is not something that I would promote people to do, if you take a break from alcohol, you're going to be a night out's going to be cheaper because you don't need as much alcohol to feel the effects of
Mhm.
it. You're more sensitized to it, and
Mhm.
I need to think about whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. Have you any useful strategies, people who are looking to, like, if you were to say, right, Gillian, I want to reduce my alcohol consumption, what
Uh-huh.
are the top 3 things that I can do strategy wise
Yep.
to facilitate that?
Okay. So I love alcohol-free drinks.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there's so many more out there.
Mm-hmm.
Like I've got friends coming round tonight, and I ordered this wee margarita thing, and I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah,
And I'll sit there with my pals, and I'll have an adult drink.
yeah.
Like, um, I don't want to sit with a tumbler of Diet Coke. I want to
Mm-hmm.
sit with my friends and enjoy an
Mm-hmm.
adult drink. So I would absolutely stock up on alcohol-free drinks.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going out, plan ahead,
Mm-hmm.
see what the bar or the restaurant offer,
Yeah.
and and know what you're going to order. Practice it so it rolls off the tongue. Because see if you put any doubt in there, they'll be
Yeah.
like, gin and tonic. So find out what they have and know what you're going to order. But I always say as well, when I did, and when I was trying to give up, I'm going to have this alcohol-free drink, and if I'm still dying for a drink after it,
Mm-hmm.
I'll have one.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Okay. Yeah.
I was never dying for the drink
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I'd had the
Well,
I'd
you
had
were
I'd
getting
poured.
involved at the
Uh-huh.
social occasion,
Yes.
like
Uh-huh.
the maybe, and I think that's a big part of people when they first turn up to a social occasion, is actually a bit of the anxiety,
Uh-huh.
and the first drink calms them down.
Yes. Uh-huh.
Whereas actually, if you just give yourself some time
Mm-hmm.
in the situation, unless you're a very socially anxious person, which I know
Uh-huh.
some people are, and but again, that's maybe another issue that somebody's got to work on themselves with. That actually, maybe just being in the restaurant or being at the party for half an hour just desensitizes you to
Uh-huh.
it, and then you didn't need the alcohol. You just
Aye.
needed 20 minutes. So many more,
Loads.
like, alcohol free. Like, you can get alcohol free Guinness now,
Uh-huh.
which I had recently, which is actually pretty decent. Like,
Yep.
it wasn't
Uh-huh.
terrible. There's like alcohol free Copperberg, and there's like one that I really like is a German beer called Erdinger,
Mm-hmm.
which is actually really nice.
Yep.
It's not. It's kind of weird. It's kind of like a savoury, um, like fizzy drink
It's got a bit of
almost.
fizz,
Yeah,
hasn't it?
like
Uh-huh.
it's not. I wouldn't. I wouldn't call it beer, even though
Mm-hmm.
it is like alcohol-free wheat beer. But that's probably not my favorite. Yeah, so there's
Yep.
so many more options out there for people
Loads.
to try.
So I would definitely find alcohol-free drinks and have fun testing them out. Like
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah,
enjoy the wee
yeah.
enjoy testing things out. The wines still haven't quite caught up, which is unfortunate. So I wouldn't spend
Yeah,
too much time looking for a
yeah,
wine.
yeah.
Um,
They
but
tend to taste just like really
yeah,
sweet fruit juice, don't they?
I get talking about fruit juice. I get raging when I go into a bar
Yeah,
and the alcohol-free cocktails are just a concoction of fruit juice. 'Cause,
yeah,
like I could give that to my wee boy and he's
yeah,
7.
yeah,
Like
Aye,
it should definitely
it's a
don't charge me
child's
£7
drink.
for it
Yeah, yeah,
either, right? But for me, if
yeah.
they've got nothing else, I'll ask for a nice tonic and a wine glass.
Mm-hmm.
Because for me, it's about the glass.
Yeah, yeah,
Because a lot of the drink, it's about the ritual, the cheersing, and all
yeah,
the rest of it.
yeah.
So definitely get some alcohol-free drinks in the house or when you're going out.
Yeah. Can you point people to like more resources? Is there good, obviously, like you've got your Instagram,
Yep.
they can follow, is it you've got your personal Instagram and then they've
Yes.
got the business Instagram?
Yeah, so I've got mine, that's Gillian Brown Coaching, and then our circle is
Yeah,
like, it's a bit of a mouthful, alcohol underscore free underscore mums coaching, or
right,
either
okay.
round the other
Yeah,
way.
yeah. I'll put the links to those
Yeah.
on
A
the YouTube video.
fabulous book is Drink by Professor Nutt.
Right.
So interesting enough, he was an advisor to the government on
Mhm.
drugs and alcohol.
Right.
Done this big, massive report,
Yeah.
uh, and when he included alcohol,
Yeah.
they fired him.
Yeah, yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
they didn't like
And we
being.
get tax money from
Yes,
alcohol, yeah.
exactly. So and by the way, he's got his own wine company, so he
Mm,
still drinks, but
mhm.
the book is really objective.
Right.
Because he's kind
So
of
that's just
the
called drink.
drink.
Right, okay.
One of my things as well, I would say to people is just treat it as an experiment. That
Mm-hmm.
for some reason we are so final about
Mm-hmm.
alcohol. Like if I don't drink from this night out,
Mm-hmm.
that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, well,
Yeah,
why don't
my
you
life
do?
is ruined. So like,
Yeah,
yeah,
there will be another night out.
yeah.
And again, in the beginning, I used to say that to myself. Say it was a Friday night. I'm not going to have a drink tonight. And at the beginning, some people think you'll be like, I'm not going to have a drink. I'm not going to have a drink. I'm not going to have a drink. Think about it. Treat it as an experiment. See if it's murder. Get leathered tomorrow night,
Mhm.
right? But see if you
Yeah,
don't do it,
yeah.
if you
If you
don't
don't try
try
it,
it, you
yeah,
will never know. It's the same with weddings, same with Christmas.
yeah,
Like, try it. There will be another wedding,
yeah.
and Christmas comes round every year. If it's terrible, get blind drunk on Boxing Day, right? But
Mm-hmm.
until you do it, like,
Mm-hmm.
just take the drama out of it and
Mm-hmm.
just treat it as an experiment, because that's where things finally stuck with
Mm-hmm.
me. I realised that because I must have done about a dozen month challenges. Some I would sail through, some I would like fail quite miserably.
Mm-hmm.
But eventually I was like, I feel brilliant here,
Mm-hmm.
feel dreadful here.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so it didn't matter what people told me about the benefits or the consequences of drinking alcohol. It wasn't until I had built up my own bank of evidence that I could say, that's it.
Yeah, yeah. You gotta do it for yourself
Yeah,
before you really actually find out whether it's gonna work for you or not.
yeah.
Yeah. Right. So I'm Coach James Corbett. You can find me on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. So I'm a personal trainer and strength coach. I work online with one-to-one coaching,
Uh-huh.
and I do small group personal training at Outcast Barbell Sanctuary in Clydebank. So yeah, so that's kind of like everything I do. Most of my work is based around strength training,
Hmm.
um, teaching people how to squat and deadlift and bench
Yeah.
press, overhead press. Uh, the occasional person will do the Olympic lifts as well. I'll teach them how to do that as well. That's not everyone though. And basically, my goal is to try and get people to integrate strength training into their lives in some sort of fashion. It doesn't have to be all that they do. It can be something that supplements their life and something that helps them do the things they like to do. So if you want to do beat like bag all the Monroes, strength training will help you do that. If you want to be better at your sport, whether that's rugby, football, tennis, whatever,
Hmm.
strength training will help you do that. Whether you want to run a marathon,
Yeah.
strength training will help you do that. Obviously, that's not going to be all you can do and expect
Yes.
you to run a marathon, but working with client, like I've got a client just now who is an avid runner, and he has a running coach and he has me for
Right.
his strength stuff, and he says he's in his 40s now. It's the best he's ever felt, uh, and that's just after a few months of strength training. With me, he was actually unable to run for a couple of weeks because of hip and back pain, and he had so many different people look at it. And I just got him to squat and deadlift, and then within 3 weeks, his hip and his back pain was gone,
Right.
and he's back to running. He's back to running, and he's building himself back up. I think he's got a race at the end of October or something, so he's building himself back up for that. Yeah, so my goal is just to get people to integrate strength training into their life, and that's why I do online coaching and the small group personal training, to provide people the most affordable and flexible way to get access to a coach who actually
Mhm.
knows what they're doing, and can help you form those habits and fix your technique, improve your technique, give you the tools that you can go forward and strength train for the rest of your life
Right.
effectively. It's going all right. It's going fairly well. I've got a small roster of clients just now, about 20. Um, and that tends to be like, I could probably take on more, but that tends to be like where I kind of sit at, is about 20
Mhm.
clients. Um, with a mixture of them doing either small group sessions with me in the gym or online sessions by themselves.
So if
So
they're doing online, they're going to the gym
yeah, they're going to the gym
themselves.
by
Right.
themselves. So they then record themselves in the gym. Some people are a bit apprehensive about,
Mhm.
because they think people are going to think they're some sort of like fitness
Mhm.
influencer or something. But actually just uh, um, did a wee clip about that on Instagram about why recording yourself makes so much sense, even if you don't have a coach.
Mhm.
It provides you with so much good information. But you would record your lifts, submit them on my app that I've got, and then I would give you feedback for you to implement for your next workout. So every workout, you're just getting a little bit better, getting that
Right.
1% better. Now, might be more than 1%, but like just
Mhm.
getting that one, just that wee bit better, and obviously you get your program and stuff delivered to you through the app as well, and then that's an all inclusive service. Yeah, so I've been doing that for 6.5 years.
Right.
As been fully self employed. Um, I have been lifting weights since I was about 14, so 21 years. So I was
Mm.
35 on Sunday there. 21 years I've been lifting weights, and I've done everything. I've done everything wrong you can do wrong in the
Right.
gym. Um, I went really skinny,
Right.
as skinny as a guy can, my size can go. Really, I was like, got myself down to about 15 stone, which is like a lot lighter than I should be. I look kind of just a bit gaunt, to be honest. And now I quite happily sit about kind of between 18 and 18 and a half stone.
Mhm.
Um, and that's a good weight for me. I could maybe be a bit lighter, but I enjoy my life too much
Mhm.
to worry about that. But yeah, having that flexibility in my own training and being able to provide that experience to my clients and help them find the routine that works for them and gets them stronger over their whole lifetime of
Mhm.
lifting really is where my expertise are.
Fab.
Yeah.
So I've got a few questions.
Yeah.
So I suppose so it's mainly women that I work with,
Mhm.
and there's all this. It's a very big question, I realise, but there is all this. There's more and more information out there telling people that they should strength train.
Mhm.
But why should women strength train? Because, like, I
Mhm.
think a lot of women would be quite apprehensive about that. And
Mhm.
like I've said about alcohol, you just say don't drink alcohol. People don't really switch. So it's the same, like you should strength train.
Mm,
We're hearing that a lot. But why should women strength
yeah.
train?
So in a general set, as a general comment, um, the physical strength of your body is how you interact with the world. If you are not physically strong enough to interact with the world, whether that's just day to day tasks,
Mhm.
bringing the shopping in from the car,
Yeah.
pushing the pram along the roads, if you can't actually produce enough force from your muscles, that's all strength is just the production of force to actually complete the tasks in your world, then there's a deficit there. There's going to be some experience lost. Some part of your life is going to be unfulfilled just simply because you're not strong enough.
Mhm.
Now, a lot of people don't get to that point until they're maybe a lot older, they're
Mhm.
maybe in their 60s, 70s, and then there's been a long period of inactivity and as we age, we lose muscle, we lose bone mass, we
Mhm.
lose strength, but you don't have to.
Right.
That's my point. If you strength train your whole life, you're going to be strong until the day you die, and until so there's going to be like a rather than a slow taper off of your ability to express yourself in the world in a physical sense. There's just going to be I'm strong, I'm strong, I'm strong, and then
Right.
yeah, that you have a good experience for your full life
Mhm.
rather than a kind of uh, go out with a bang rather than a whimper,
Uh-huh.
shall we say, right? And that's definitely like my philosophy on that. I want to extend the quality of my life as far into
Mhm.
how much I'm actually here on the on Earth.
Yes.
Um, that experience was drilled into me by the my dad's parents, my grand and my grandpa. My grand died when I was 18, and my grandpa died a couple of years later. But the I never knew my dad's mum as a healthy, capable person.
Really.
She was emphysema, bound to a chair all the time, walking
Mm.
sticks, and she wasn't that old. She wasn't that old. I mean, she would have been early 60s maybe when I was born, and she was late 70s when she passed away. I never knew her as a healthy person. Whereas my mum's now 69, and she goes she lifts weights when she can, but she goes cold water swimming on a Sunday.
Uh-huh.
She goes walking every week. She's still working
Mhm.
a fairly physical job. Like she's a radiographer. She actually works in Kirkcaldy for 2 days and then comes back on a Thursday and a Friday. She works in Kirkcaldy for
Mhm.
2 days, then comes back to Ayrshire. Uh, so the stark um, difference between the the life that I saw my gran have
Yeah.
and my mum, who's about the same age now,
Yes.
is remarkable, and that's why women should be lifting weights.
Right.
That's why they need to be lifting weights. To
Yeah.
be honest, no amount of cardio is going to make you stronger. It's
Mm.
going to keep like I'm not against cardio,
Right.
but cardio for your heart and your lungs, great,
Yeah.
perfect. But the problem with cardio, and if that's all you do, I know you're a runner, so don't take this
Mhm.
personally. the 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 problem with that is you can't make running harder. Like you can't start running with like a weight vest,
Mhm.
and you could, but you can't run with a weight vest that's 100 kilos,
Mhm.
whereas you can do a deadlift with 100
Mhm.
kilos. Like that kind of uh, that ability to do both, to be able to run and be fit and be cardiovascularly healthy, is actually covered a lot by just lifting
Right.
weights. Now, if you have other goals outside of that, like I'm sure you do, like I think you've got a 10K or a half marathon coming
Yeah.
up, like
Mhm.
you're going to have to run and practice running
Yeah.
and do a running program to be able to do that. To like, because 13 miles is a long run,
Uh-huh.
like it's not easy. Um, but most of the the health benefits that come from having strong lung and strong heart, strong lungs and a strong heart are like that just basic level are covered by lifting weights because your heart you breathe heavy and your heart
Yep.
beats fast when you lift weights. You might not be, and then there's like obviously like if you're an athlete, you're going to have to do some sort of conditioning, but that's the foundation of anyone's gym routine should be strength training.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a big question.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it's a big question. Hopefully, I've answered that.
Mind for that one.
Yeah, hopefully, I've answered that, and that is a. But it all comes down to similar to your kind of coaching is like why.
Yes.
There needs to be that like strength training is hard
Mhm.
to do it effectively and to get the benefit out of it that comes with like the way I try and think about it is strength training is a self improvement vehicle.
Mhm.
Everything in your life will get better when you strength train
Mhm.
because you'll teach yourself delayed gratification.
Mhm.
You'll teach yourself how to sleep properly. You'll teach yourself how to be organized. You'll teach yourself how to have a goal that is not immediately attainable,
Mhm.
that may take months or years to achieve. Uh, and it basically just kind of makes you get your shit together.
Can't help but think of, like, from a mum or a woman's perspective as well, like what you say about the quality of life and being able to do
Yeah.
stuff as you get older, like the internal demands that women put on themselves, that stuff's not going to go away no matter what age we are.
Yeah.
So we physically can't do the stuff that
Mm.
our heads are saying, you need to do that, you need
Yeah.
to do that, you need to do that. Like there's going to be there's going to come a real resistance later in life if you physically can't do the stuff that your head's telling you you need to crack on with.
And if you're in charge of a young infant,
Mm-hmm.
you better make sure you're physically fit.
Yeah.
Like there's this maybe a bit dramatic, but there's a really good clip of a lady who's trying to a clip from America, and there's a lady who's got her like buggy next to her car, and she's like really struggling, and she's a bit overweight, and she doesn't look like she's in great shape. She's really struggling with the shopping to like put the car, and then she's trying to put the baby in the car, and then he drops one of her shopping bags, and the pram starts to roll away from her,
Mm.
and it's rolling towards a really big busy road, and then she goes oh, and she notices it, and she trips and she falls,
Right.
and she's so unfit she can't get back up
Back
in
up.
time to go and get. Now, luckily, someone saw the
Mm-hmm.
pram going running towards the road, and they run in from off camera and they grab the pram before it gets to the. I'll see if I'll find that clip and I'll try and I'll put it in.
Mm-hmm.
But that if that's not an advert for staying physically fit
Yep.
and physically healthy and not allowing your body to deteriorate to the point where you're like you might not struggle uh, like lifting things, but if you can't actually move your own body
Yep.
weight through
Mm-hmm.
space, then that is a problem for a lot of people, not just women. That when you get kids, the kids are the priority,
Yep.
and then all of a sudden your needs and your
Absolutely.
your your own health takes a back seat,
Mm-hmm.
and you're doing a disservice to your family and your children if you're not looking after yourself
Yes.
because you can't help anyone else if you're unable to look
Mm-hmm.
after yourself. Why should women strength train? I think it's you're couched within your family and then within your community, your broader family, and then within your community, and then within
Mm-hmm.
your town. You
Yep.
can, if you're a strong and fit and healthy person, you can have so much more vitality and so much more usefulness to the people
Yep.
around you, not just your immediate family, but
Mm-hmm.
everyone that's in your life. And you might be the inspiration that someone needs to sort themselves out. And that's another reason that I keep fit and healthy is I want to be an example to my partner and to my kids.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that I've got it all figured out,
Yeah.
But that's the whole point, is you don't have to have it all figured out. You just have to make sure that you're better than you were last week or
Yeah.
last month or last
That's
year.
it.
And that's not all I have to say on that, but I think that's enough to start with.
No,
Yeah,
the similarities in alcohol and fitness are so
yeah,
striking,
yeah.
actually. So that was a question on the kind of fitness side.
Okay.
Another thing that we hear all about is protein, and
Hmm.
we should be taking like protein,
Hmm.
and all these like protein shakes and all that. Like, is there I mean, what should you be looking for? What should you be aiming for
Hmm.
when it comes to protein?
Yeah. So the the big things that you want to be having in place in terms of your diet are every meal should be trying to be centered around a protein source.
Hmm.
People struggle with that with breakfast sometimes because they're used to having like cereal
Hmm.
or toast or something like that. I know that my partner really struggles with that. One, because she's never been a big breakfast person. She's always
Uh-huh.
just had like small breakfast. So uh, trying to center every meal around a protein source, and that's meat, fish, eggs, dairy, if you can take it, and having 30 to 40 grams of protein per meal.
Right.
For now, it depends on your body weight and what your goal body weight is, how many grams of protein you should be
Okay.
having. If you are, unless you're very overweight, i.e., I would say somewhere in the like some people won't even know what this is, but if your body fat percentage is kind of over 35 for a woman, over 30 for a guy, then I would say, yeah, you need to bring your, just for health, just for general health reasons, we need to bring your body fat percentage down, and that probably would involve you losing some weight
Uh-huh.
on the scale. You want to have about 1 gram per pound of goal body weight,
Right.
right?
Okay.
So um, let's just, for easy numbers, let's take a man who's 300 pounds and he's very overweight, and we do some quick calculations. Say, right, well, let's say in the next year we want to have you at 250 pounds.
Right.
So he would be eating 250 grams of protein,
Right. Okay.
not
Not at
300. So
300
he's going for his goal weight, not his current
current.
weight. So, and that gives you a window to work
Uh-huh.
with. The general advice I'll give for guys, 200 grams, for women, 150
Right.
grams.
Okay.
That's the kind of general advice. What you want to avoid is shakes and bars that are pre-packaged. You want to avoid those.
Really.
They're very highly processed. They are quite often just a Mars bar with protein on it.
Right.
Like, you can't polish a turd.
Right.
Basically, they're just
Okay.
like, they're the same thing, just with added protein. You'd be better off having a like actual real food.
Right. Okay.
And I know that's hard. That's hard
Uh-huh.
because we're out and about. We're
Yeah.
lazy people. We've got all like you, and it's the classic situation of you come to the till at the shop, and there's protein bar, and there's like a nut bar or a
Uh-huh.
shake or something, or like there's something there that's advertising to you. All I would say is, if it's something that you haven't made yourself, or something that comes in a package or something,
Uh-huh.
try and limit that to around 20% of your total intake.
Right.
And that's something that I have with clients, is called an 80/20
Uh-huh.
rule, uh, which is also known as the Pareto
Pareto.
principle. Yeah, yeah.
Uh-huh.
So if you can be consistent and have whole foods and meat and fish and eggs 80% of the time, and fruits and vegetables, and cook everything yourself 80%
Uh-huh.
of the time, that'll get you almost as far as you want to go, really, in terms of losing weight and all that
Okay.
kind of stuff. So, yeah. But the reason you want to have protein is what makes up muscle. And having more muscle on your frame is so essential to your health and your aesthetic goals, uh, that it's strength training is the best way to do
To
that.
do that.
And eating protein is how you recover from your strength training. We don't get stronger by lifting weights. we don't get bigger muscles by lifting weights. We get bigger muscles and get stronger by covering
Covering.
from lifting
Mm,
weights. It's the time in between your workouts where you're feeding your body and you're eating the good food and you're giving it the nutrients and the water and treating it well. That's where your body grows and puts things in the right places where they're meant to be. And quite often, I'll have had this actually happen with a client who came to me and it was November time, I think, and she had her friend's wedding in the July the next year and said, "Oh, I want to get in shape for
uh-huh.
my friend's wedding." So like
Mhm.
did her measurements, got her to do like her hips and her chest and her arms and everything. So the reason I do that is we kind of get like we get an idea of like how much space your body takes up, the volume of your body
Right.
essentially, right?
Okay.
And so then I said, right, okay, save those. Don't go on the scale. Eat this much protein. Eat this. Eat like just track your protein. Just eat that much. I didn't really even track calories with her. And then she strength trained, and then after about 3 months, I have what's called a check-in, quarterly check-in
Right.
with people. And at that stage, now I hadn't asked her to do this, but she'd weighed herself again
Hmm.
and she'd put on 5 kilos.
Right.
Excuse me. But every single one of her measurements had went down.
Really?
Every single one. So she'd put on 5 kilos and she'd lost a total of 12 inches off all her measurements added
Mhm.
together. And she couldn't get by the fact that she put on 5 kilos.
We're so conditioned to look at
Yes.
and that almost leads me on to the next question. So one of the women had said to me, like, eh, I'm doing like X amount of steps a day, I'm doing weight bearing exercises, I'm not seeing anything, I'm not seeing any of the weight coming off. And I know a lot of times where people are told, oh, it's menopause, like
Mhm.
menopause gets to blame it everything, I suppose, now.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, so that was one of her questions then. So, like, and that's specifically around weight.
Hmm.
So,
Hmm.
what's your thoughts
So
there?
there's a few areas where people go wrong with that, or kind of classic mistakes they're making. One is solely focusing on the weight on the scale as your measurement
Hmm.
tool, because all that all that little number on that scale is simply your relationship with gravity. That's all it is.
Mm.
I would urge her to look at other things she can track,
Okay.
such as waist
Hmm.
circumference, thigh circumference, bust circumference,
Right.
up arms, kind of
Okay.
right. So, uh, because even if her weight didn't move and all her measurements went down 3 or 4 inches, muscle is more dense than fat is.
Hmm.
So if all your measurements went down and your weight hasn't changed on the scale's still a useful.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't throw it out completely. For some people, I would, because uh, especially if it's someone like sort of very, very, very overweight. Actually, we just the reason they're overweight and the reason that's getting them down is just because all their value and all their worth is done in that number.
Uh-huh.
For someone who's of a reasonable body composition is not needing to lose a whole lot of weight. So like maybe someone who's looking to lose like 5 to 10 pounds, like
Hmm.
half a stone, right? That's a perfectly reasonable amount of weight to lose. But actually, you might be better served at just keeping your weight where it is and tracking everything else.
Yes. Okay.
So, and then seeing that if your weight stays the same, but all your inches went down, all that means is you've lost 2 pounds of fat, but you've put on 2 pounds of muscle.
Mhm.
That 2 pounds of muscle, that's life changing. Like in a little 85-year-old woman, if you added 2 pounds of muscle to her frame, that's the difference between her being able to get up and off the toilet,
Aye.
right? So to uh, and adding muscle means that you're like a glycogen sponge. So your blood sugar regulation is much better. You have more ability to your hormone levels will be much
Uh-huh.
better. your ghrelin and your leptin signals will be much more easily regulated. Um, you'll actually be able to consume more calories without having to worry about putting on weight
Right.
because the engine in you is bigger. So there's a thing called basal metabolic rate. So that's to do with that's just how many calories you burn just to keep the lights on.
Right.
Without if you just lay in your bed all day, that's how many calories you would burn.
Mm-hmm.
If you have more muscle mass, that is higher.
Right.
So it means you've got more wiggle room. You
Mm-hmm.
can have a wee bit of cake without
Yeah.
having to worry about it. You don't have to be super strict. Now, if you want to be getting down to like the small teens in terms of body fat percentage for a woman, you're going to have to track things. You're going to have to be more diligent. But if you just want to be healthy,
Right.
and a
Okay.
healthy body fat percentage for a woman is somewhere between 20 and 26% body fat.
Right.
If that's where that and that'll look a little bit different on everyone. But if you just want to be in that healthy range, and for a guy, it'll be somewhere between 18 and 24% body fat. Um, just because women's carry slightly more body fat than men do, just because of like breasts and some things.
Mm-hmm.
Then you don't necessarily have to track everything, but the the things that you want to track are the things that are actually kind of give you a more holistic view, and
Right.
they're not just a monolithic. All I'm focused on is my weight,
Right.
right? So that's what I would advise for that person is, and that person can message me and I'll have a chat with her and we'll figure out a few things to have a chat with her about and actually go right. What things do you think might be and that could even be things like keeping a food diary and saying, oh, this day I was really hungry, this day I wasn't that hungry. Did I sleep well?
Right.
Because quite often, if you're not seeing the results that you want to see, either you're looking in the wrong place or you're not tracking the things you should be tracking.
Okay.
Yeah. So that was quite a long-winded answer, but
No, but
yeah,
it's no really helpful.
yeah, yeah,
Really helpful.
yeah.
The other question was, now you're going to have to say the word again for me.
Osteopenia.
Osteopenia.
Yeah.
What briefly is it,
Mhm.
for those who don't know, and what would you recommend? This is someone whose mother has been diagnosed with this,
Mhm.
and they've got kind of concerns that this may be
Yeah.
something that they
Yeah.
develop later in life. So, what would you recommend?
So there are so osteopenia basically is loss of bone mass
Right.
to an extent that it starts to become pathological, i.e., it becomes a disease.
Right.
Okay, so our bones, if you have what's called or you're becoming osteopenic, or you have osteopenia, that means the bone mineral density, so your BMD, is becoming so low that your bones start to be really frail and brittle.
Okay.
Okay, how we combat that is through strength training.
Right.
Right, there are various drugs you can get that will help. So if someone's in a really dire situation,
Right.
obviously I'm not a doctor, but I can't remember their names, but there are various medications. But in every study they've ever done, the effect size of those medications is dwarfed by strength training.
Right. Okay.
So squats, deadlifts, bench presses, overhead
Right.
presses, lat pull downs. The reason those things improve your bone density is we are adaptive organisms,
Right.
and we adapt all the time until you die. Basically, you don't stop adapting.
Uh-huh.
When you're using your muscles are actually attached to your bones. So the the thing that actually the signal that actually gets your bones to be denser is called a shearing force. So that's a twisting force. Now, when you're let's take your bicep actually attaches on your forearm in here. Okay, when you use your bicep you're pulling on the bones, the actual tendons. So
Right.
muscles are contracting, putting that force through the tendon, and that's actually pulling on the bones. And that's what stimulates the bone to get denser, because it goes, your body realizes that's a signal. Okay, I need to be able to deal with that better next time.
Right.
So it helps. It puts more effort into it. Now you've got to be eating enough calcium. You've got to be eating enough calories. You've got to be eating enough food. That might be another issue that this person's mother is having. They're not eating enough.
Right.
That will accelerate the process.
Right.
If they're not strength training, they're being sedentary, and they're not eating enough, then that will accelerate the
Right.
process. So
Okay.
and that can be hard for people in their 70s or 80s, because perhaps dementia is starting to set in. Perhaps there's other issues, and uh, sometimes it can just be a bit too late.
Uh-huh.
But that's why I would urge people, women in their 40s and 50s, when
Yes.
it can still be a
You
conscious
can do it.
decision they make, they need to start strength training now.
Okay.
Uh, what this lady can do with her mother is perhaps go get a personal trainer for her and her mother at the same time. That usually personal trainers will do a wee bit of a discount, like if there's two of you, so like a 1-to-2 session, or like maybe small personal training. But find someone who is versed in dealing with older people.
Right.
That is a kind of a group that I specialise in. So she's welcome to contact me, and I'll have a chat with her. The like I've coached several people over in their 60s and 70s, so it's something that I understand, and you have to be quite careful with them, because they may be so deconditioned and frail that you're having to start off at the most basic
Basic.
level with them, like um, and basically rehabbing them to the point where
Uh-huh.
they're actually kind of able to start doing the things that are going to really give them that bang for the buck. So it tends to be like slow progress at the
Yeah.
start, but eventually they get to that kind of, it's like a tipping point
Mm-hmm.
where they start to get strong enough, and they start to like have vitality, and they start to do all this stuff again. So, yeah, well, you want to avoid osteopenia, lift weights.
Okay.
It's like that's the short answer. Like, hopefully I've went into that. So make sure she's eating enough. Make sure she's staying active. Take her to someone who's going to teach her how to do deadlifts and how to do squats and how to do. And obviously, I don't know this person, so it's hard to give them exact advice. But yeah, that would be my general advice for that.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Is that the last?
That's our
Right,
questions.
right. That was fantastic. I really enjoyed that. Right, that's us. I'll get to the camera. That's us done for today. I'd like to thank Gillian.
Thank you.
That was good. She's going to look at that camera
Thank
over
you.
there. Yeah, that was. So you can find Gillian on Instagram. When's your next challenge start? Or
The
I think
next
you've just done
challenge.
one, haven't you?
Yeah, we've got
Yeah.
one just finished today, one started. The next one, I think, I want to say the 28th of October.
Okay.
That literally takes you up to the week before Christmas.
Okay.
If you want to try and knuckle down before the Christmas
Yeah.
parties.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect.
So, yeah.